𝐏2. Explanation Chapter 2. To master. Chapter 2. Obligations of the partners. Here's the revised version with the most important takeaway to remember for each provision. Section 1. Obligations of the partners among themselves. Article 1784. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1784. Provision: a partnership begins from the moment of the execution of the contract, unless it is otherwise stipulated. Example: in a partnership where two friends agree to start a bakery, the partnership begins as soon as the partnership contract is signed, unless they agree on a different start date. Most important to remember: the partnership is formed upon execution of the contract unless specified otherwise. Article 1785. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1785. Provision: when a partnership for a fixed term or particular undertaking is continued after the termination of such term or particular undertaking without any express agreement, the rights and duties of the partners remain the same as they were at such termination, so far as is consistent with a partnership at will. Example: suppose a partnership was created to run a specific project that lasts for 2 years. After 2 years, the partners continue the business without creating a new agreement. This continuation is treated as a partnership at will, with all existing rights and duties unchanged. Most important to remember: when a partnership continues after its fixed term without an agreement, it becomes a partnership at will. Article 1786. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1786. Provision: every partner is a debtor of the partnership for whatever he may have promised to contribute thereto. Example: if partner A agrees to contribute P500,000 in capital to the partnership but fails to do so, they become a debtor for the amount promised. Most important to remember: partners are liable for the contribution they promised, even if they have not yet delivered it. Article 1787. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1787. Provision: when the capital or a part thereof which a partner is bound to contribute consists of goods, their appraisal must be made in the manner prescribed in the contract of partnership, and in the absence of stipulation, it shall be made by experts chosen by the partners. Example: partner B promises to contribute equipment worth P200,000. If no agreement on how to appraise it is specified, the partners hire an expert to assess the value of the equipment based on current market prices. Most important to remember: if contributions are in kind, e.g., goods, their value must be appraised by an expert if not agreed upon. Article 1788. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1788. Provision: a partner who has undertaken to contribute a sum of money and fails to do so becomes a debtor for the interest and damages from the time he should have complied with his obligation. Example: partner C promised to contribute P100,000 on the partnership's formation date. If they fail to do so, they owe interest and damages for the period from the due date to the actual contribution. Most important to remember: if a partner fails to contribute money on time, they are liable for interest and damages. Article 1789. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1789. Provision: an industrial partner cannot engage in business for himself, unless the partnership expressly permits him to do so. Example: partner D is an industrial partner and is allowed by the other partners to start a consulting business. If not allowed, starting his own business would violate the partnership's terms. Most important to remember: industrial partners cannot run their own business without the explicit consent of the other partners. Article 1790. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1790. Provision: unless there is a stipulation to the contrary, the partners shall contribute equal shares to the capital of the partnership. Example: partners E, F, and G agree to contribute equally to a food delivery business, with each partner contributing 1/3 of the total capital. Most important to remember: unless agreed otherwise, partners must contribute equally to the capital. Article 1791. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1791. Provision: if there is no agreement to the contrary, in case of an imminent loss of the business of the partnership, any partner who refuses to contribute an additional share to the capital, except an industrial partner, to save the venture, shall be obliged to sell his interest to the other partners. Example: due to a financial crisis, Partner H refuses to contribute additional capital to their partnership. The other partners may force him to sell his share. Most important to remember: a partner refusing to contribute to save the business may be compelled to sell their interest. Article 1792. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1792. Provision: if a partner authorized to manage collects a demandable sum which was owed to him in his own name, from a person who owed the partnership another sum also demandable, the sum thus collected shall be applied to the two credits in proportion to their amounts. Example: Partner I, authorized to manage the partnership, collects P10,000 owed to him personally from a customer who also owes P30,000 to the partnership. The P10,000 will be applied to both debts in proportion, P2, 500 for the personal debt and P7, 500 for the partnership debt. Most important to remember: any collected amount must be allocated proportionally between personal and partnership debts. Article 1793. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1793. Provision: a partner who has received, in whole or in part, his share of a partnership credit, when the other partners have not collected theirs, shall be obliged, if the debtor should thereafter become insolvent, to bring to the partnership capital what he received even though he may have given receipt for his share only. Example: Partner J receives P15,000 from a debtor for his share of a partnership loan but the other partners have not yet received theirs. If the debtor later becomes insolvent, Partner J must return the amount to the partnership capital. Most important to remember: a partner must return any portion of the credit received if others have not collected and the debtor becomes insolvent. Article 1794. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1794. Provision: every partner is responsible to the partnership for damages suffered by it through his fault. Example: Partner K mistakenly causes a car accident during the course of the business, damaging the company's vehicle. The partnership can claim damages from him to cover the repair costs. Most important to remember: partners are liable for damages to the partnership caused by their own fault or negligence. Article 1795. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1795. Provision: the risk of specific and determinate things contributed to the partnership shall be borne by the partner who owns them. Example: Partner L contributed a specific and valuable painting to the partnership as part of the capital. If the painting is lost or damaged, the risk is borne by Partner L, not the partnership. Most important to remember: the owner of specific things contributed to the partnership bears the risk of loss or damage. Article 1796. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1796. Provision: the partnership shall be responsible to every partner for the amounts he may have disbursed on behalf of the partnership. Example: Partner M pays for legal fees on behalf of the partnership. The partnership must reimburse him for the amount spent plus any interest. Most important to remember: the partnership must reimburse partners for any disbursements made on its behalf. Article 1797. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1797. Provision: the losses and profits shall be distributed in conformity with the agreement. Example: Partner N and O agree that N will receive 60% and O will receive 40% of the profits. Any loss will also be shared in the same proportion unless otherwise stated. Most important to remember: profit and loss distribution follows the partnership agreement. Article 1798. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1798. Provision: if the partners have agreed to entrust to a third person the designation of the share of each one in the profits and losses, such designation may be impugned only when it is manifestly inequitable. Example: the partners agree to have a third party determine the profit-sharing ratio. If one partner feels the decision is unfair, they can challenge it if the inequity is obvious. Most important to remember: the designation of profit/loss share by a third party is valid unless clearly unfair. Article 1799. Legal basis: Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1799. Provision: a stipulation which excludes one or more partners from any share in the profits or losses is void. Example: a partnership agreement that excludes partner P from sharing in the profits or losses is invalid under the law. Most important to remember: no partner can be excluded from sharing in profits or losses. Article 1800. Legal basis: Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1800. Provision: the partner who has been appointed manager in the Articles of Partnership may execute all acts of administration despite the opposition of his partners, unless he should act in bad faith. Example: partner Q is the appointed manager of a retail business. Even if the other partners disagree, he has the authority to make day-to-day decisions unless he acts in bad faith. Most important to remember: the managing partner has authority to act in the business, even against other partners' opposition, unless they act in bad faith. Article 1801. Legal basis: Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1801. Provision: if two or more partners have been entrusted with the management of the partnership without specification of their respective duties, the decision of the majority shall prevail. Example: partners R and S manage a small restaurant but have no specific duties. When they disagree on a new menu, the decision of the majority, if R agrees and S disagrees, is the one that prevails. Most important to remember: in case of disagreements among partners with equal management duties, the majority decision prevails. Article 1802. Legal basis: Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1802. Provision: in case it should have been stipulated that none of the managing partners shall act without the consent of the others, the concurrence of all shall be necessary for the validity of the acts. Example: partners T, U, and V agree that none of them can make decisions on expanding the restaurant without the consent of the others. If one partner acts alone, it is invalid unless everyone agrees. Most important to remember: if the partnership agreement requires unanimous consent for actions, no partner can act alone without the other's approval. Article 1803. Legal basis: Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1803. Provision: when the manner of management has not been agreed upon, the following rule shall be observed: all partners shall be considered agents, and whatever any one of them may do alone shall bind the partnership. Example: without any agreement on management structure, partner W opens a new branch of the business. This action binds the partnership, even if the other partners were not consulted. Most important to remember: without a specific management agreement, any partner can bind the partnership by their actions. Article 1804. Legal basis: Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1804. Provision: every partner may associate another person with him in his share, but the associate shall not be admitted into the partnership without the consent of all the other partners. Example: partner X wants to bring in a third party to invest in their share. However, the third party cannot become a partner without the approval of all existing partners. Most important to remember: a partner can bring in an associate, but the other partners must agree for the associate to become an official partner. Article 1805. Legal basis: Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1805. Provision: the partnership books shall be kept at the principal place of business, and every partner shall have access to inspect them. Example: partner Y wants to review the financial records of the restaurant business. They have the right to inspect the books at any reasonable hour. Most important to remember: every partner has the right to inspect the partnership books at the principal place of business. This version now includes key points to remember, the legal basis, and examples for each provision, making it easier to master and apply them in practice. Certainly. Continuing from where we left off, here are the remaining provisions and their corresponding details. Section 2, Obligations of the partners to third parties. Article 1806. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1806. Provision, partners are jointly and severally liable for the debts and obligations of the partnership, unless otherwise agreed. Example. If a partnership takes out a loan and cannot repay it, the creditors can claim the debt from each partner individually or from all partners jointly. Most important to remember. Partners are personally liable for partnership debts, unless the partnership agreement states otherwise. Article 1807. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1807. Provision, a person who is not a partner in the partnership may still be liable to third parties under the doctrine of apparent authority. Example. Partner Z represents the partnership in a contract, even though Partner A had no prior agreement to do so. As a result, the third party may hold the partnership responsible, assuming Partner Z had apparent authority to act. Most important to remember. Even non-partners may have liability if they act as if they have authority, known as apparent authority. Article 1808. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1808. Provision, a partnership is bound by the acts of a partner when the act is within the scope of his authority, and third parties acting in good faith are not required to inquire into the internal rules of the partnership. Example. Partner A enters into a lease agreement for the partnership's office. Third parties, who acted in good faith, are not required to check if Partner A had internal permission from other partners to do so. Most important to remember. A partnership is bound by acts of its partners within their authority, even if other partners did not approve them internally. Article 1809. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1809. Provision, a partnership is liable for torts committed by a partner within the scope of the business, if it was committed in the course of the partnership's operations. Example. If Partner B injures a customer while delivering goods for the partnership may be held liable for the damages. Most important to remember. The partnership is liable for a partner's torts if committed during partnership activities. Article 1810. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1810. Provision, a partner acting beyond the scope of his authority is personally liable for the obligations he incurs with third parties, unless the third party knew or should have known that the partner was acting outside his authority. Example. Partner C signs a contract for a business outside the partnership scope. If the third party did not know that Partner C was acting beyond his authority, the partnership could be held liable. Most important to remember. If a partner exceeds authority, they are personally liable unless the third party knew or should have known about the lack of authority. Section 3, Dissolution and Winding Up of Partnerships. Article 1811. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1811. Provision, a partnership is dissolved by the expiration of its term or the completion of its undertaking, unless otherwise agreed. Example. If a partnership was formed to develop a specific real estate project, the partnership dissolves once the project is completed, unless stated otherwise. Most important to remember. A partnership dissolves automatically upon the completion of its specified term or undertaking unless the contract provides otherwise. Article 1812. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1812. Provision, a partnership may be dissolved by mutual agreement of the partners. Example. All partners of a family-owned store agree to close the business and dissolve the partnership by mutual consent. Most important to remember. A partnership can be dissolved by the mutual consent of all partners. Article 1813. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1813. Provision, a partnership can also be dissolved by the death, insanity, or bankruptcy of a partner unless otherwise agreed. Example. If one partner dies, the partnership may be dissolved unless there is an agreement allowing the partnership to continue with the remaining partners. Most important to remember. The death, insanity, or bankruptcy of a partner can lead to dissolution, unless agreed otherwise. Article 1814. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1814. Provision: the dissolution of a partnership does not automatically terminate its obligations to third parties. Example: if the partnership dissolves but still owes debts, the partners are still responsible for fulfilling those obligations. Most important to remember: dissolution does not automatically extinguish the partnership's liabilities to third parties. Article 1815. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1815. Provision: the partnership continues to exist for the purpose of settling the partnership's affairs during dissolution. Example: after a partnership dissolves, the partners continue to manage the partnership's assets and liabilities until all debts are paid and assets distributed. Most important to remember: even after dissolution, a partnership continues in order to wind up its affairs and settle obligations. Article 1816. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1816. Provision: the partnership is dissolved by the judicial declaration of the court if one partner petitions for dissolution, based on just cause. Example: Partner D petitions the court for dissolution due to Partner E's continuous violation of the partnership agreement. Most important to remember: a partnership may be judicially dissolved based on just cause. Article 1817. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1817. Provision: a partnership that is dissolved must be liquidated. Example: the partners must liquidate the business, sell assets, pay debts, and divide the remaining property according to their share in the partnership. Most important to remember: dissolution requires the liquidation of the partnership's affairs. Article 1818. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1818. Provision: upon dissolution, a partner may not withdraw the capital he contributed until the business is liquidated and debts are paid. Example: Partner F cannot take back their capital contribution until the partnership's liabilities are settled and liquidation is complete. Most important to remember: partners cannot withdraw contributions until the partnership is fully liquidated. Article 1819. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1819. Provision: if the dissolution is caused by a breach of the partnership agreement by one of the partners, that partner is liable for the resulting damages. Example: if Partner G breaches the partnership agreement, causing the dissolution, they must compensate the partnership for any resulting damages. Most important to remember: a partner breaching the agreement and causing dissolution is liable for damages. Article 1820. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1820. Provision: during the winding up process, partners who are not actively involved may be entitled to compensation for their efforts if stipulated in the agreement. Example: if one partner, during the winding up process, manages the sale of assets and incurs additional costs, they may be entitled to compensation as per the agreement. Most important to remember: partners may be entitled to compensation for their efforts in winding up the partnership if agreed upon. Article 1821. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1821. Provision: the partnership may be re-established by mutual consent of all the partners, even after dissolution, as long as there is no settlement of the liquidation process. Example: the partners decide to re-establish their partnership after its dissolution because they realize the business can be revived. Most important to remember: partnerships may be re-established before the liquidation process is completed. Article 1822. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1822. Provision: if, after dissolution, any partner continues to carry on the partnership's business without agreement, the partnership is considered revived, and the partner must account for profits and losses to the other partners. Example: if Partner H continues to run the business post-dissolution without agreement from the other partners, they must share any profits or bear losses with the others. Most important to remember: If a partner continues the business after dissolution without agreement, the partnership is considered revived. Article 1823. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1823. Provision: after dissolution and during liquidation, any profits earned from the liquidation process must be shared according to the partners' agreed upon share. Example: if the partnership sells a business asset for a profit during liquidation, the profits will be distributed according to the partner's original share in the partnership. Most important to remember: any profits from liquidation are distributed according to the partner's share. Conclusion. This concludes the full review of the provisions on partnership law, their legal basis, examples, and the key points to remember for each section. It should now be easier for you to understand and apply these provisions when reviewing for exams or working in practice. Here's a breakdown of the provisions from Articles 1824 to 1827, including legal bases, examples, and key points to remember. Article 1824. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1824. Provision: all partners are solidarily liable with the partnership for everything chargeable to the partnership under Articles 1822 and 1823. Example: if the partnership owes a debt for an act done in the course of business, each partner is liable for the entire amount, regardless of their individual share or involvement. For instance, if the partnership borrows money for a business purpose and a creditor sues the partnership, they can also sue any individual partner for the full amount owed. Most important to remember: partners are jointly and severally liable for partnership obligations, meaning a creditor can go after any individual partner for the full amount. Article 1825. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1825. Provision: when someone represents himself as a partner in an existing partnership, or consents to another representing him as such, he is liable as if he were an actual partner, particularly when third parties have given credit based on that representation. The liability extends to actions taken based on public representations, regardless of the actual partner's knowledge. If a partnership liability arises, the person is liable as if he were a real partner. If no partnership liability results, the person is liable pro rata with others who consented to the representation or separately. Liability for agents: a person misrepresenting themselves as a partner is considered an agent of the actual partners. Example: person A falsely claims to be a partner in a business. Person B, believing the representation, extends credit to the business. If the partnership incurs a debt, person A will be treated as an actual partner and is liable for the debt. If the business does not incur a liability, person A will be liable only with others who consented to the misrepresentation. Most important to remember: anyone who misrepresents themselves as a partner can be held liable for the partnership's obligations, as if they were an actual partner. Article 1826. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1826. Provision: a person admitted as a partner into an existing partnership is liable for all the obligations of the partnership that arose before their admission, as if they were a partner when those obligations were incurred. However, this liability is only satisfied out of partnership property unless there's an agreement to the contrary. Example: if person X is admitted as a new partner in a partnership that owes a debt incurred before X's admission, X is responsible for that debt, but the debt must be paid out of the partnership's assets first, unless the agreement specifies otherwise. Most important to remember: new partners are liable for prior debts of the partnership, but this liability is typically limited to the partnership's assets unless agreed otherwise. Article 1827. Legal basis, Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 1827. Provision: creditors of the partnership have priority over the personal creditors of each partner with regard to the partnership property. However, the private creditors of each partner may attach and publicly sell the partner's share in the partnership assets. Example: if a partnership has an outstanding debt, the partnership's creditors will be paid first from the partnership's assets. However, if partner Y has personal debts, their personal creditors can seize their share of the partnership's assets, even though the partnership creditors have priority. Most important to remember: partnership creditors are preferred in claims against partnership property, but personal creditors of individual partners can seize their share of the partnership's assets. Summary of key takeaways from Articles 1824 to 1827. 1. Solidary liability, Art. 1824 partners are jointly and severally liable for partnership obligations. 2. Liability for misrepresentation, Art. 1825 misrepresenting oneself as a partner can result in liability as if they were an actual partner. 3. Liability of new partners, Art. 1826 new partners are liable for pre-existing debts of the partnership, but this is limited to the partnership's assets unless otherwise agreed. 4. Priority of partnership creditors, Art. 1827 partnership creditors have priority over personal creditors, but personal creditors can still claim a partner's share in the partnership. These points are essential for understanding the obligations and responsibilities of partners, especially in relation to liability and creditor claims. Let me know if you need any further explanations.